周一長談同大家深入時事話題，我哋今日傾嘅咧係加拿大同魁北克恩怨情仇嘅一啲歷史過程。頭先我哋上半段已經講咗，佢呢段歷史係屬於英國同法國之間最早喺1759年嘅時候，英國征服咗喺北美洲嘅法國殖民地之後，佢哋依然能夠允許法國能夠有自己嘅文化、自己嘅系統嘅自己嘅宗教，而冇話完全去毀滅咗佢哋嘅文化。當然呢個好處嘅咧就係佢哋已經咁樣嘅一種做法係維持更長遠嘅和平同埋更長遠嘅和諧關係。但係到今日我哋睇到嘅咧就係失驚無神。魁北克又會同你講我要獨立，我要同你嚟分開。今日頭先我哋上半段咧，非常多謝教授同我哋解釋咗呢段歷史，同埋唔係所有嘅魁北克嘅人都支持獨立嘅。On the first half, you said not every not even the majority Quebecois wants to separate or be independent. But the 1995 referendum was only 1.1%. So that was one of the really milestone in Canada's history as well as Quebec. Can you help us understand the significance of this event?
Yeah, well, it is true that there's a very tiny margin between the no side and the yes side in that referendum. And the majority of French-speaking Quebecois definitely voted yes. But it was we have to be very cautious here. This was a referendum which was about sovereignty, but also about partnership. That was the other side of it. It was going to be, Quebec would be sovereign, but supposedly would also be, there would be an ongoing economic partnership with the rest of Canada. This was the idea. Of course, to have a partnership...
Separate and not divorced.
That's correct, like a condominium. But of course, for a partnership to work, the other partner has to be willing to play the game. And it's not clear that the rest of Canada was that interested in an economic partnership. There's also very interesting polls which came out which show that 20% of the people who voted yes in that referendum thought that Quebec would still be part of Canada even while they were voting yes, which explains just a lot of the confusion. There was a lot of confusion. But at that point, in the early 90s, it had to do with the constitutional debates, which is a separate subject. And Quebec, there was a strong sentiment that there had been an attempt to sort of resolve the constitutional question. It failed. And there were many in Quebec who felt, okay, if it can't be resolved, then basically it's because the rest of Canada isn't prepared to recognize our identity, and therefore we should vote for independence. But that was the default position. But even then, I know very well there were very deep divisions within the same family. I mean, people get together, and you can imagine if you were on the yes side or the no side, brothers, sisters, cousins, it became very fractious, very polarized within one's own world. It became within the same family. It became very, very polarizing. And it's also interesting that in the years that have followed, the polls suggest, and you have to be cautious here, the sentiment has come down. It's not, there is still 30–40% of sentiment in Quebec for something like sovereignty and independence. That why can't we, with 8 million people, have our own flag at the United Nations, just as Sweden or Denmark or Holland or Belgium have? Why can't we? But the majority are, on the whole, comfortable with their Canadian identity as well as their Quebec identity, provided the Quebec identity is recognized as something important. And symbolically, this was important, in 2006 when the the House of Commons passed a resolution recognizing that the Quebecois constitute a nation within a united Canada, this actually helped in a very important way to quiet the waters. In other words, symbolically there was recognition without opening up the Constitution and tearing ourselves apart.
Now, a nation within a nation, that is a new concept, for many. But let's jump back to at the end, is that to Canadians, to everyone, is that if Quebec really separated, what does that mean to us, to Canadian, or to the Quebecois?
Well, I mean, it depends. If it's going to be a very bitter separation and it's going to be with great anger, then in the short run there will be it will be messy.
Messy divorce.
And there will be mess. The strangest thing is the most messy part will involve northern Quebec, which is populated by Aboriginal people, Inuit people, who do not want to be separate from Canada. So there's going to be some problems there. But economically, in the short run, it would mean the Canadian dollar would go down some points of it, and the Quebec economy would suffer in the short run a little bit more than the rest of Canada. In the long run, after all, in Europe, if we look, Czechoslovakia broke up, and it broke up relatively peacefully. Yugoslavia broke up, and it broke up very unpeacefully, in a very, very angry and
very bloody.
Very bloody way.
Yeah.
So my suspicion is Canada, if it broke up, would be more along the Czechoslovak lines, but it wouldn't be, let's put it bluntly, it's like a marital separation. The husband and wife don't normally, it's not, you can say we'll be friends, but there are bitter feelings. There's bitterness. It's hard to avoid that. So a breakup would not come without a cost. Jacques Parizeau, who used to be the Premier of Quebec at the time of the referendum, said, he kept telling Canadians, it's better that we go because otherwise the Quebec question is like going to the dentist every 6 months, It's not fun. And he was right in some ways. It doesn't go away, and
it didn't go away.
No, it didn't go away, and it's not going to go away. On the other hand, he's not right. He wasn't right in another sense, because it turns out the cost of breakup can also be emotionally very, 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 very high. The scars can be deep.
Yeah.
So in that sense, we have spared ourselves what probably would have been a very messy breakup.
But I'm really happy that you, at least with your expertise and your research, we do know that there is a big part of the Quebec, the French Canadian who do not want to separate.
I think it is probably true to say it's a majority, or it's certainly close to among French-speaking Canadians, or if not a majority, very close to it. Yeah. It's split down. The French Canadian, Francophone Québécois, to use the modern word, are split down the middle, I think.
I want to end this discussion by putting it in a bigger perspective. What does this Canadian and Quebec relationship means to world politics? Because are we setting a good example of tolerance, acceptance, or are we messing up our nation?
Well, in the comparative way, probably the country which has been most successful in managing these sorts of questions has been Switzerland. Of all the countries I can think of. It's a federation too. It was helped by the fact they had very dangerous neighbors. Germany and France were not, for a long time, they were not good neighbors in terms of, and for various historical reasons too. On the other hand, there are many other countries which have the same issues. Belgium, which has Flemish and French speakers. Spain, where there's a very strong minority populations in Catalonia who speak a different language, or many of them do in Basque Country. India, which has many different linguistic groups within it. Nigeria, many other countries. And in that sense, the Canadian case is often seen as a pretty good example of how countries which have more than one major language, linguistic, cultural group, or even if you want to use the word nationality within their borders, can still be part of the same state. But these states there's a word even in the vocabulary of political science, they're called multinational states. They're states which have more than one nationality.
Nations, in contrast, the country to nation state.
Which is
so it's multinational
states. Right, states which have more than one nationality. And in that respect, Canada is probably a reasonably good example of where it works. An example of where it didn't work is the Soviet Union. Or Yugoslavia, where it broke apart, but there was a lot of coercion and forced unity there. In the Canadian case, despite the conquest in 1759, over time, the reality is Canadians, French-speaking and English-speaking, have learned to live with each other relatively well, with differences and squabbles, but overall, there isn't the legacy of bitterness that is present elsewhere. And the Premier of Quebec, when the first referendum was held in 1980, René Lévesque, once put it very beautifully. He said, and he was a strong supporter of sovereignty, he said, but it's also true that Canada is not a gulag. He was using the Gulag was where the Russian in the Soviet Union was where the prisoners were sent out in Siberia.
古拉格群島嘅加拿大唔係古拉格群島。
Meaning it was not a prison really in the way that the Soviet Union could have been said was you were forced if you were Latvian or Lithuanian, you had no choice. Canada was not that kind of a country. And so I think Canada remains far from perfect, but in terms of ability to manage to keep people of different linguistic and cultural identities, major groups, together in a degree at least of, we'll say, harmony. I think Canada remains a pretty good example of that in the world.
Civilized.
And a fairly civilized way. Even the breakup, if it happened, would be civilized, but it's not obvious that Canada will be breaking up.
Thank you. 我哋今日傾嘅係魁北克同加拿大嘅關係。雖然當然佢係有一個歷史嘅淵源，否則唔會話到今日聯邦政府同魁北克政府之間嘅交流同埋交往的話，係大家都有某種程度嘅尊重，某種程度嘅忍讓。最後我嗰個問題頭先問嘅，大家都知道就係、到底咁樣嘅關係係表示係對全世界顯示出一種寬容、一種接納、一種包容嘅政治體系啊，抑或係我哋係搞到我哋加拿大亂晒動咧？我哋今日嘅結論所了解到嘅咧，就係、包容同接受，最主要就係有一種文明嘅互相寬容、互相接受嘅過程當中去揾答案，而唔係話我有咗個答案要你接受。我覺得呢種加拿大嘅精神就係我哋透過過程當中大家一齊慢慢去揾答案，咁樣嘅過程都係對所有嘅人民、所有嘅民生都係一種福利嘅。我哋今日嘅節目到呢處為止，週一長談同你深入時事話題，下個禮拜再見，拜拜。